Admiral David Cooper stood at the bridge of the EFS Retribution, his weathered hands clasped behind his back. The massive view screen before him showed the last transmission from Europa Colony, fading into static. His jaw clenched as he watched the final moments replay. The flash of alien weapons, the screams of colonists, and then nothing but silence. "How many?" he asked, his voice low and controlled. 12,000 civilians, sir," replied Officer Sarah Miller, her voice trembling slightly. The consortium's peacekeeping fleet gave no warning. They claimed our research facilities violated their technological development guidelines. Cooper's fingers dug deeper into his palms. For 300 years, humanity had played by their rules. They had endured the patronizing lectures about being too violent, too aggressive, too primitive to join galactic society. The aliens had forced humanity to limit their military, restrict their research, and submit to regular inspections, all in the name of peace. The bridge crew worked in tense silence, broken only by the soft beeping of consoles and the occasional whispered command. Through the massive windows, Cooper could see Earth's defense fleet gathering. 500 ships, secretly built over decades in hidden shipyards throughout the solar system. The aliens had never bothered to look too closely at the asteroid mining operations. Why would they? Humans were too primitive to be a threat. "Sir," called out Communications Officer Ben Wilson, "we're receiving demands from the consortium. They want us to stand down our fleet and prepare for a full compliance inspection." He paused, his face darkening. "They're saying Europa was our fault, that we forced their hand." Cooper finally turned to face his crew. 20 years of military service showed in every line of his face, in the gray at his temples. "Send them our response." Wilson's fingers hovered over his console. "Sir, what response?" "Nothing. Absolute silence. Let them wonder." Cooper walked to the tactical display, where red dots marked consortium monitoring stations throughout the solar system. "Lieutenant Rogers, are our stealth ships in position?" "Yes, sir. Teams are ready at all 6 stations." Cooper nodded slowly. "The consortium thinks they know everything about us. They've studied our history, our wars, our conflicts. They think this makes us predictable." A small smile crossed his face. But they missed something important. In all those wars, in all those conflicts, humans learned. We got better, more efficient, and most importantly, we learned how to wait. He pressed a button on the display, and suddenly the red dots began disappearing one by one. On the main screen, brief flashes of light marked the destruction of each monitoring station. The consortium's eyes in the solar system were being systematically blinded. "Sir," Wilson called out again, more urgently this moment. "Multiple incoming transmissions from consortium diplomatic channels. They're demanding explanations, threatening sanctions." "Keep our channels dark," Cooper ordered. "Let them talk to themselves." "Lieutenant Rogers, status of Phase 1. All monitoring stations neutralized." "Sir, no distress signals got out. As far as the consortium knows, everything is normal in the Sol system." Cooper returned to the window, watching as more ships joined the fleet. The sleek vessels were nothing like the clunky, visible warships the consortium had come to expect from humans. These were built with one purpose: to bring war to a civilization that had forgotten what war truly meant. "Send the coded signal to all ships," Cooper commanded. "Operation Remembrance is now active." He turned to address his bridge crew directly. "The consortium thought they could control us forever. They thought their technological superiority made them invulnerable. But they forgot something crucial. Humans don't just fight with technology. We fight with determination, with cunning, and most importantly, with revenge." The massive engines of the Earth fleet began to glow as ships moved into formation. In the darkness of space, humanity's Armada prepared to show the galaxy why their ancestors had been so afraid of them. The peaceful stars were about to learn why humans had been called the apex predators of their world. As the fleet prepared to jump to their first target, Cooper sent one final message to all ships. Remember Europa. Remember all the colonies they've destroyed. Remember that they call us primitive. It's time to show them just how primitive we can be. Lieutenant Emma Clark moved silently through the darkened corridors of the Consortium's communication hub on Proxima Centauri B. Her enhanced eyes adjusted perfectly to the low light. Another primitive human innovation the aliens had overlooked. Behind her, 12 other soldiers moved like shadows, their footsteps silent on the polished floor. Target area ahead, she whispered into her neural comm. Remember, no energy weapons. They'll trigger the alerts, blades and sonic dampeners only. The aliens had built their communication hub like a palace, with soaring ceilings and ornate decorations. They had never imagined it would need serious defenses. After all, who would dare attack the peaceful consortium? Emma allowed herself a small, grim smile. The aliens were about to learn some hard lessons about humanity's capacity for violence. The first guard died without making a sound. Emma's carbon fiber blade slipped between its neck plates, finding the vital organs with surgical precision. Dr. Hayes's xenobiology briefings had been thorough. Every alien species had its weak points, and humans now knew them all. Central control room, 30 meters ahead, reported Surgeon Jack Wilson. 6 targets inside. Standard Centaurian configuration. Emma nodded. The Centaurians were one of the original species that had voted to keep humans isolated from galactic society. They were about to regret that decision. She pulled out a small device, another primitive human creation. It looked like a simple metal ball, but inside was a network of quantum computers running advanced AI algorithms. Breach in 3, she commanded. Remember, we need one alive for the codes. The team moved into position. Emma counted down silently, then rolled the device into the room. It made a soft clicking sound as it activated. Inside the control room, the Centaurian operators barely had time to register the intrusion before the device released its payload. A precisely calibrated sonic pulse, designed specifically for Centaurian physiology, dropped 5 of the 6 aliens instantly. The 6th one, protected by Emma's team's sonic dampeners, stared in horror as human soldiers emerged from the shadows. Your security codes, Emma said in perfect Centaurian. Now. The alien's eye stalks trembled. Impossible. Humans can't. You're contained. Emma pressed her blade against the alien's throat sac. The container just broke. Codes. Now. The codes came quickly after that. Emma's team worked with practiced efficiency, uploading viruses into the consortium's communication network. By the time anyone realized what was happening, it would be too late. Earth's fleet would have a clear path to strike at the heart of alien civilization. "Ma'am," called Private Steve Roberts from a console. "You need to see this." Emma walked over, her blade still dripping blue Centaurian blood. On the screen was a classified report about Europa colony. The attack hadn't been about technology violations at all. The consortium had detected Earth's secret fleet and had tried to provoke humanity into revealing it too early. They killed 12,000 civilians as a test, Emma said, her voice cold. They wanted to see if we'd break their rules. She turned to the terrified Centaurian. "Congratulations. We passed your test. Now you get to see what that means." The alien's eyes widened in understanding. "Please, we only wanted peace." "You wanted control," Emma corrected. "You wanted us leashed and caged because you feared what we might become." She activated her neural comm. "Admiral Cooper, this is Strike Team Alpha. Network is compromised. You have a clear path to all primary targets." She looked out the massive windows at the peaceful alien city below. In the distance, she could already see the first flashes of light as Earth's fleet emerged from stealth. The consortium's greatest fear was about to come true. Humanity was loose among the stars, and they had brought all their talent for warfare with them. "Team, plant the charges," she ordered. "Let's give the Admiral's fleet a proper welcome beacon." She looked at the trembling alien one last time. You should have just let us join your society as equals. Now you get to join ours as the defeated. The charges detonated precisely on schedule, and the night sky of Proxima Centauri B lit up with the first fires of human vengeance. The peaceful stars would soon learn that sometimes the most dangerous predator is the one you try to cage. Dr. Robert Hayes watched through his protective visor as the red mist spread through the test chamber. Inside, the alien test subject, a captured consortium diplomat, began to cough. Within minutes, its skin turned gray. Within an hour, it was dead. Test number 57 successful. He spoke into his recorder. Project Nemesis is ready for deployment. Behind him, in the secure lab of the EFS Retribution, his team of scientists worked at their stations. Each one wore the same grim expression. They had all lost someone when the consortium destroyed Europa Colony. Now they had created humanity's answer, a weapon that would make the aliens regret ever underestimating Earth's primitive science. Dr. Hayes called out his assistant, Amy Foster. Admiral Cooper is requesting an update. Robert nodded and activated the main screen. Cooper's face appeared, looking more tired than usual. Doctor, please tell me you have good news. Project Nemesis is complete, sir. Robert pulled up the test data. The bioweapon targets the shared genetic markers we found in 98% of consortium species. It's airborne, highly contagious, and completely harmless to humans. Cooper's expression darkened. And the effects. Total organ failure within hours. No cure without the genetic key we built into its structure. Robert paused. Sir, once we release this, there's no going back. The consortium's entire civilization could collapse. They should have thought of that before they murdered our people. Cooper's voice was hard. How soon can we deploy? Robert walked over to a sealed container. Inside, thousands of tiny drones hummed quietly, each one no bigger than a bee. Another primitive human innovation that the consortium had ignored. The delivery systems are ready. Each drone can carry enough of the agent to infect a small city. We've programmed them to target population centers and life support systems. Casualties. If we deploy at all primary targets simultaneously, potentially billions within the first week. Robert took a deep breath. Admiral, as the creator of this weapon, I need to formally state my concerns. This goes beyond revenge. This is genocide. Cooper was quiet for a moment. What did you find in the Europa data, Doctor? Robert's hands tightened on his desk. According to their own records, the attack was just the first step. They planned to systematically eliminate our outer colonies until we were confined to Earth again. They called it humane containment of a dangerous species. And now we show them how dangerous we really are. Cooper nodded. Release the drones, Doctor. All targets. Robert turned to his team and gave the command. Across the ship, launch tubes opened. Thousands of tiny drones shot out into space, each one carrying death engineered specifically for the arrogant aliens who had thought themselves so superior. Through the lab's window, Robert watched the drones disappear into the darkness. Each one would find its way to a consortium world, slip through their advanced defenses, and release its payload. The aliens would never see it coming. Their medical technology, for all its wonders, had never faced a weapon designed by humans who had spent centuries fighting diseases on their own world. First drone swarm has reached the Centauri colony, Amy reported. Beginning dispersal. On the main screen, data began flowing in. The red mist spread through alien cities, carried by their own ventilation systems. Panic spread as the first victims began showing symptoms. Their doctors, used to healing with a touch of their advanced technology, found themselves helpless against this engineered apocalypse. Admiral, Robert said quietly, the consortium is sending out distress calls. They're offering immediate surrender in exchange for the cure. Cooper's laugh was cold. Tell them what they told us when we begged for mercy on Europa, that sometimes harsh measures are necessary for the greater good. He looked at Robert. Keep monitoring the spread, Doctor. I want to know when the death toll matches what they planned for our colonies. Robert turned back to his screens, watching as the red dots of infection spread across the galaxy map. Humanity had been called primitive, violent, and dangerous. Now the peaceful stars would learn why Earth's history was filled with war, because humans had learned to do it better than anyone else. The silent plague spread through the stars, carrying humanity's revenge on microscopic wings. Captain Lisa Foster stood at the helm of the EFS Vengeance, watching as the crystal spires of New Harmony came into view. The alien city sparkled like a jewel against the purple sky of its world. For thousands of years, it had been the cultural center of the consortium, a place where art and music from 100 species came together. "Such a beautiful city," she said softly. "Almost seems ashamed to destroy it." "They didn't think Europa was beautiful, Captain," her weapons officer, Mark Davis, replied. "They didn't hesitate to destroy our homes." Lisa nodded. The loss of Europa still burned in everyone's memory. Status of the alien defenses. "Their shield technology is exactly where intelligence said it would be," Mark reported. "Advanced, but designed to stop energy weapons and kinetic impacts." He smiled grimly. They never imagined someone would use such a primitive thing as sound against them. The human fleet had surrounded New Harmony completely. 50 ships, each carrying weapons that the consortium had dismissed as too primitive to be a threat. They were about to learn how wrong they were. "All ships report ready, Captain," called out Communications Officer Rachel Brown. "Dr. Hayes confirms the bioweapon has already weakened their population. Their hospitals are overwhelmed." "Perfect timing," Lisa said. "Launch sonic disruptors." The first wave of attacks wasn't visible to the naked eye, but throughout the city, the carefully tuned sound waves began their work. Crystal, for all its beauty, had one major weakness. It shattered when hit with the right frequency. The mighty towers of New Harmony began to crack. "Alien ships approaching," Mark reported. 7 vessels. Their weapons are charged." Lisa allowed herself a small smile. "Let them come. Show them what primitive humans can do." The alien ships were beautiful, all curved lines and glowing energy fields. They fired their advanced energy weapons at the human fleet. But humanity had learned from 300 years of watching. Their ships' hulls, coated with materials reverse-engineered from consortium technology, absorbed the energy attacks like they were nothing. "Return fire," Lisa ordered. "All ships, deploy armor-piercing rounds." Another primitive weapon that the aliens had forgotten about. Simple metal slugs, accelerated to near-light speed. The alien shields, designed to stop energy weapons, might as well have been paper. 3 enemy ships exploded in the first volley. On the surface, the crystal towers began to fall. Each one shattered in a cascade of glittering shards, the pieces raining down on the panicking alien population below. The city's defenses, focused on stopping high-tech attacks, were useless against the precisely tuned sound waves that shook their world apart. "Captain," Rachel called out, "we're receiving a transmission from the city's leaders. They're begging us to stop. They're offering to add humans to the consortium's ruling council." Lisa's laugh was bitter. "Tell them what they told us when we asked to join, that we're too violent to be trusted with power." She turned to her crew. "Continue the attack. I want this place reduced to rubble." The battle lasted less than an hour. When it was done, the cultural capital of the galaxy's most advanced civilization lay in ruins. The beautiful crystal towers were nothing but glittering dust. The surviving aliens huddled in bunkers, learning for the first time what it felt like to be helpless against a superior force. "Admiral Cooper is sending congratulations, Captain," Rachel said. "New Harmony's fall is being broadcast across all human colonies. They're calling it the beginning of a new age." Lisa looked at the ruins of the alien city. In the distance, she could see fires starting, smoke rising into the purple sky. The consortium had thought humans were too primitive to join their peaceful society. Now they were learning why Earth's history was filled with war, because humans had learned to win at any cost. "Send word to the fleet," she ordered. New Harmony was just the beginning. We move on to the next target in 1 hour. She touched the small piece of Europa crystal she wore around her neck. Let them remember this day. Let them remember what happens when you push humanity too far. The human fleet regrouped, leaving behind the ruins of the galaxy's most beautiful city. The peaceful stars were learning that sometimes the most dangerous enemy is the one you force to learn warfare. Commander John Martinez walked through the ruins of Centauri Prime's capital city, his boots crunching on broken glass and crystal. The air still smelled of smoke and death. Around him, his soldiers secured buildings and rounded up surviving aliens. The bioweapon had done its work well. Most of the population was either dead or dying. "Sir," called Private Eric Wilson, running up to him. "We found another group of survivors in the underground shelters, mostly children." John's jaw tightened. "Any signs of the bioweapon?" "No, sir. Looks like their parents sealed them in clean rooms when the infection started spreading." Eric hesitated. "Sir, they're asking for medicine. For their parents." "We both know there is no medicine," John said quietly. "Not unless Admiral Cooper orders Dr. Hayes to release the cure." He looked at the young soldier. "Put them with the others in the containment zone. Make sure they have food and water." As Eric hurried away, John continued his walk through the city. The Centaurians had been among the first to vote against Earth joining the consortium. Now their mighty civilization lay in ruins, brought down by the very humans they had called primitive. His radio crackled. "Commander, this is Lieutenant Karen Miller. We found their central archive. You need to see this." John changed direction, heading toward the massive building that had once housed the Centaurians' historical records. Inside, Karen stood by a working computer terminal, her face pale. "What did you find?" "Their records about Earth, sir. The real reason they kept us isolated." She stepped aside, letting him see the screen. "They were afraid of us. Not just our violence, our ability to adapt, to learn, to turn anything into a weapon. They thought if we joined the consortium, we'd eventually take it over." John read through the files. The aliens had watched Earth for centuries, growing more and more afraid as humans advanced faster than any species they had ever seen. The restrictions, the rules, the patronizing control, it had all been fear disguised as peaceful guidance. "Sir," another soldier burst in, "we've got problems at Containment Zone 3. The aliens, they're begging for death. They say watching their children survive while they die is too painful." John closed his eyes for a moment. He had joined the military to protect humanity, not to oversee genocide. But the memories of Europa, of innocent human children dying while the consortium watched coldly, still burned in his mind. "Commander," Karen said softly, "there's more. According to these records, not all consortium species agreed with the treatment of Earth. Some argued for full membership, said we could teach them things about survival they'd forgotten." "Too late for that now," John replied, but doubt crept into his voice. He walked to the window, looking out at the dying city. In the distance, human ships still hung in the sky, a constant reminder of how far humanity had come. From a quarantined species to one that had brought the galaxy's greatest civilization to its knees. His radio came to life again. "All ground commanders, this is Admiral Cooper. Dr. Hayes reports the bioweapon has reached all primary targets. Casualty numbers are beyond projections. Prepare for Phase 2 of the occupation." John picked up a piece of broken alien art from the floor, a delicate sculpture that showed different species working together in harmony. "Admiral," he responded, requesting permission to speak freely about the containment zones. "Granted, Commander." "Sir, we have thousands of children in protective custody. Their parents are dying in front of them. We're becoming what they feared. No, we're becoming worse." He paused. "At what point is the price of revenge too high?" There was a long silence on the radio. Finally, Cooper spoke. "Continue securing the city, Commander. I'll take your concerns under advisement." John set the sculpture carefully on a shelf, one small act of preservation in a day of destruction. The aliens had feared humanity's capacity for violence. Now John feared something else, that in proving them right, humans might lose something more important than the war. Lieutenant Miller, he ordered, download everything from their archives. If we're going to build something after all this destruction, we need to understand what we're destroying first. The sun set on Centauri Prime, casting long shadows through the ruins of a civilization that had lived in peace for too long to remember the true cost of war. Admiral David Cooper stood alone in his quarters aboard the EFS Retribution, reading the latest reports. Colonel Amanda Wright's rebel fleet had grown. More human ships were joining her every day. The screen showed her latest broadcast playing across human and alien channels alike. This has to stop. Amanda's voice rang out. We've gone too far. We're not bringing justice anymore. We're committing genocide. The consortium was wrong to oppress us, but this level of revenge will destroy humanity's soul. Cooper switched off the broadcast and looked at the casualty numbers from Dr. Hayes. Billions dead from the bioweapon. Entire species on the brink of extinction. Alien children orphaned by the thousands. Victory had never tasted so bitter. His door chimed. Enter. Captain Lisa Foster walked in, her uniform showing signs of recent battle. Sir, Colonel Wright's forces have taken control of 3 more colony worlds. They're distributing the cure for the bioweapon to the alien populations. Traitors, Cooper muttered, but his heart wasn't in it. Any word from Commander Martinez on Centauri Prime? He's joined them, sir. His entire ground force switched sides this morning. Lisa's voice was tight. They're protecting the alien containment zones from our forces. Cooper walked to his window, watching the stars. Everything had seemed so clear after Europa. The aliens had murdered human civilians, so humanity would show them the true meaning of violence. But now, sir, Lisa said quietly, I need to know. Did you read the full report about Europa? Cooper turned. What do you mean? The data Commander Martinez found in the Centaurian archives. The attack wasn't ordered by the full consortium. It was a rogue faction, extremists who wanted to provoke exactly this response from us. She placed a data pad on his desk. We've killed billions to punish the wrong people. Cooper read the report slowly, his hands shaking. All this death, all this destruction, and they had played right into the extremists' hands. They had proven every fear the consortium had about humanity's violent nature. His comm system beeped. Admiral, Dr. Hayes' voice came through. Colonel Wright's forces have breached our network. They're broadcasting the cure's formula to every medical facility in consortium space. We can't stop it. How many ships have we lost to her side? Cooper asked. Almost 40% of the fleet, sir, Lisa replied. More are deserting every hour. They're saying we're becoming worse than the aliens ever were. Cooper looked at his reflection in the window. He saw what he had become, a man so focused on revenge that he had led humanity down a path of genocidal violence. Commander Martinez's words from his last report echoed in his mind. At what point is the price of revenge too high? His command console lit up with urgent messages. More ships declaring for Colonel Wright. More reports of crews refusing to fire on civilian targets. More evidence that the Europa attack had been engineered to provoke this very response. Captain Foster, he said finally, send a message to all ships still under our command. Tell them. He took a deep breath. Tell them that Admiral Cooper orders them to stand down. Lisa's eyes widened. Sir, Colonel Wright was right. We've lost our way. He straightened his uniform. Send my surrender to her forces. But first, transmit one last order to all ships. Every scrap of data about the bioweapon cure is to be given to alien medical teams. Priority on children and civilian populations. And you, sir. Cooper picked up his sidearm and placed it on his desk. I'll face whatever justice they decide is appropriate. Someone has to answer for what we've done. As Lisa left to transmit his orders, Cooper looked one last time at the stars. Humanity had freed itself from alien control, but the price had been too high. Now they would have to find a way to live with both their victory and their shame. His final message went out to all ships. Let this be the end. We've proved we're powerful. Now let's prove we can be merciful too. Fleet Commander Daniel Peters stood in the Grand Hall of the former Consortium capital, watching as human and alien representatives gathered for the signing of the new peace treaty. 3 months had passed since Admiral Cooper's surrender. The galaxy was forever changed. "Are we ready to begin?" asked Colonel Amanda Wright, now serving as Earth's chief diplomat. The victory that had almost destroyed humanity's soul had ended because of her courage to stand against revenge. "Almost," Daniel replied. "We're waiting for the children." The doors opened, and a group of young aliens entered, survivors from the containment zones. With them walked Commander John Martinez, who had chosen to become their guardian after refusing to let them die. The children's parents had been lost to the bioweapon, but human medical teams were working day and night to save those who still lived. Dr. Robert Hayes stood at the back of the room, his face showing the weight of his actions. The cure he had hidden in his weapon was now saving millions, but he would always carry the burden of those he couldn't save. Representatives of Earth and the former Consortium, Amanda began, her voice carrying across the quiet hall. "We gather today not to celebrate victory or mourn defeat, but to forge a new path forward." Daniel watched as alien leaders, those who had survived the plague, took their seats. Their numbers were few, their species devastated. But in their eyes, he saw something unexpected: hope. "Humanity proved we were not primitive," Amanda continued. "But we also proved that power without wisdom leads only to destruction. Today, we create a new alliance, not the old consortium that ruled through fear of violence, nor the bloody vengeance that almost consumed us." The documents were brought forward. Simple paper, a human tradition that the aliens had adopted for this historic moment. The first signature would be Admiral Cooper's, writing from his cell where he awaited trial for war crimes. "We learned from each other in the worst possible way," Amanda said. "The consortium learned that oppression breeds violence. Humanity learned that revenge breeds only more pain. Now we must learn to build something new from the ashes." Commander Martinez stood with his adopted alien children. "The first act of our new alliance will be healing. Earth's medical technology, combined with consortium science, will restore what was broken. The cure will reach every corner of the galaxy." Daniel stepped forward to sign next. As he did, he remembered the words of a young alien child he had met in the ruins of New Harmony. "If you teach us to fight, will you also teach us to forgive?" From this day forward, Amanda declared, no species will be called primitive. No world will be denied its place among the stars. We will remember the cost of pride and the price of revenge. The alien representatives came forward one by one. Many wore medical patches, Dr. Hayes' cure working to heal their bodies, even as this treaty worked to heal the galaxy. "What shall we call this new alliance?" asked one of the alien leaders, their voice weak but determined. "The Unity," Amanda replied, "because we paid too high a price to learn that we are stronger together than apart." As the last signatures were added, Daniel looked out the window at the stars. Humanity had gained its freedom, but not through the genocide they had almost committed. They had found it in the moment they chose to stop, to show mercy, to help rebuild what they had nearly destroyed. "The human fleet will be reformed," he announced, "not as an armada of vengeance, but as guardians of peace. Every ship will carry both weapons and medical supplies. Every soldier will learn both how to fight and how to heal." The alien children moved among the delegates, distributing small crystals, pieces of the fallen towers of New Harmony, reformed into symbols of renewal. "Let the galaxy remember this day," Amanda concluded, "not as the end of a war, but as the beginning of understanding. We are all primitive. We are all advanced. We are all learning." Daniel touched the crystal he had been given. In its facets, he saw both the darkness humanity had nearly embraced and the light they had chosen instead. The blood-soaked Armada had brought horror to the peaceful stars. But in the end, humanity's greatest victory had been choosing to stop. The new age began not with a bang of conquest, but with the quiet promises of healing, forgiveness, and hope.